So, welcome to week 5 of the Transitioning to Organic webinar series for crop producers. We have two fabulous speakers today who Katharina will introduce momentarily. This series is a collaboration between Community Alliance with Family Farmers, UC Cooperative Extension, and the UC Organic Agriculture Institute. My name is Grace Jackson. I'm the Farmer Services Central Valley Regional Lead at CAF. Margaret Lloyd, Cooperative Extension Farm Advisor for Organic Agriculture and Small Farms, will be joining us in the coming weeks. And now I'll pass it over to Katharina Ullman from the UC Organic Agriculture Institute to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. As Grace said, my name is Katharina Ullman. I'm the Training and Technical Assistance Coordinator with the UC Organic Agriculture Institute. I'm so happy to be here and to see so many of you in this webinar. Thank you for taking time out of your day today to be here, especially all the farmers that are here today. Thanks so much, and I'll pass it back to you, Grace.
We want to take a brief moment to thank our funders of this webinar series, CDFA's Office of Agricultural Resilience and Sustainability, CDFA's State Organic Program, and the USDA Transition to Organic Partnership Program. As I mentioned, this webinar will be available to watch on the UCOAI and CAF YouTube channels. If you visit the resource guide, which we'll link in the chat in just a few minutes, you can find the recording for sessions 1 through 4 linked there. And as with the previous few weeks, you will receive an email with presentation slides and resources every week after the webinar. This is a very brief overview of our structure for today. We will begin shortly with our first presentation. We will move immediately into our second presentation and save about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. Please stay online for our closing poll until 1:15. And at 1:15 until 2 p.m., we have office hours with the presenters and a breakout room to get help with your organic system plan or any certification questions that you have. We hope you'll join us. You will see a link popping into the chat soon and this will take you to the webinar series resource guide with Zoom links, presentations, resources, and optional OSP homework if you are following along and making progress on your OSP in real time with us. And I will pass it back to Katharina again to introduce our speakers.
Thanks so much, Grace. So as you all know, we are in week 5 of our 10-week seminar series. This week, we start 3 weeks of soil health. So we have two wonderful presenters today talking about how to build soil health in transitioning soils with an emphasis on soil life. So all the things that live in the soils. I am really excited to be able to introduce our wonderful presenters. Joji Muramoto is a UC Cooperative Extension Organic Agriculture Specialist at UC Santa Cruz. His research focuses on soil health management using agroecological approaches. And Scott Park is with us as well. He has 52 years of farming experience. And in the past 40 years, he's really emphasized soil health on his farm. He and his family farm 1,800 acres regeneratively and organically They're regenerative organic certified with diversified row and field crops in Sutter County, and their farm is called Park Farming Organics. So excited to have these two presenters with us. And with that, we'll pass it over to you, Joji, to share your slides and give us an introduction to building soil health when you're transitioning conventional to organic soils.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, and we can see your slides too. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joji Muramoto. I'm so excited to be here today and talk about soil health, which is the foundation of conversion from conventional to organic. So let's get started. So here's the outline of my talk. First, what is soil health? Soil health is what? Basic definitions and uh, living living ecosystem in the soil. And we're going to talk about the ecosystem in the soil and also a concept of One Health, which connect soil health for plant, animal, and human health. And then second part of my talk is the soil organic matter, the key to healthy soil. And finally, I'm going to briefly mention about 6 principles for building healthy soil. Okay, let's get started. So this is one of the most commonly cited definition of soil health. Continued capacity of soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. It's kind of long, definition, but let's dive in a little deeper to focusing on 3 keywords in this definition. First, a vital living ecosystem. Second, functioned. And third, sustains plants, animals, and humans. So let's get started from a vital living ecosystem. Soil is full of life. Imagine that. Handful of soil has more organisms than entire human population on the earth. Billions of lives in handful of soil. We don't see it, but that's the reality. Soil is full of life, and soil is the most diverse ecosystem on the earth based on DNA sequencing. Some examples are shown in picture here. So many different kinds, different shapes. Soil is full of life. And then the ecology is the science of the relationship between organisms and other organisms, or organisms with environment, of its environment. So the soil ecosystem is biological community of interacting organisms and their environment in soil. That's the soil ecosystem. You might have heard that the soil has 3 different properties: physical, chemical, and biological. And the soil health is the look at the soil through the lens of organisms, biological lens. That's kind of soil health approach. For example, in this figure, there's an overlap between physical and organisms. So that overlap is like habitat for microorganisms in different scales. And another overlap with chemical and biologicals is that microbial activities and diversity, how that relate to soil chemical characteristics such as soil pH and so forth. And then organisms versus organisms, it's called food web. And you might have seen something like this. Organic residue, the left bottom, is eaten by microorganisms, and those are eaten by larger soil animals. Those relationship between organisms, right? That's called food web, soil food web in this case. Another important organism versus organism relationship in the soil is soil microorganisms versus plant roots. Especially thin layer around root hair is called rhizosphere, which is very active microbial activities happening right there. That's because plant release exudate almost up to 40% of carbohydrate they photosynthesize. It's released from the roots. And those are very attractive for microbes. And the different plants release different kinds of exudate. So different kind of microbes gathers around the roots. So those kind of interaction is so important to build a healthy soil and to grow healthy plants. The second key word is function. This chart from the left talking about what kind of soil microbes or animals are there, organisms are there in the soil. Decomposers, nutrient transformer, ecosystem engineers, and biocontrollers. In the middle is functions, different functions in the soil by those organisms. Carbon transformation, nutrient cycling, soil structure maintenance, and biological population regulation. And those functions working together in complex way to provide different kinds of ecosystem services from the soil. Food and fiber production, water quality and supply, erosion control, atmospheric composition and climate regulation, pollution attenuation and degradation, and pest and disease control, and biological conservation. Different ecosystem service is provided through different soil functions. And the health is, what is health? According to Oxford English Dictionary, health is soundness of body, the condition in which its functions are duly and efficiently discharged. So healthy soil is not just, not being without sickness or something. Healthy soil is the soil that provides those functions efficiently. That's the healthy soil. So by building healthy soil, you can have more functions, soil functions in the soil. Now, last part, how soil health affect plant, animal, and human health. Some of you might have heard the concept of One Health. It's a relatively new term, but it was developed around the year 2000 when bird flu emerged. Veterinarians and then medical experts realized that, oh, we need to work together because the disease transferred from birds to human. So the term One Health was coined. But after that, scientists realized actually deeper than that, actually soil health is actually the foundation of all the One Health, connecting soil health and plant health and animal health and human health through the microbial cycling. You might have heard the term nutrient cycling, but this is microbial cycling. It's kind of new things. Another study showed that soils are a cornerstone of One Health, showing more than 40 soil microbiome functions that either directly or indirectly contribute to soil, plant, animal, and human health. As we know, human has a lot of microbiome, microbes in our intestine systems, and the plants have microbes all over the place too. We just started to understand those things. I mentioned that rhizosphere, around the roots, a lot of microbes, but not just outside, but inside the roots and inside the plants and on top of leaves. Microbes are everywhere around the plants. This is one fascinating study showing the difference between organically grown apple and the conventionally grown apple. Both apple had about 100 million bacteria in it. Apple has a lot of bacteria in it. And then researchers found a difference in diversity of bacteria in apple seed and apple pulp. That's kind of interesting. So farming actually affect the soil quality, soil health, and then and plant uh, produce microbiome as well. And another study found that the fruits and vegetable derived microbes could be found in the human gut and contribute to gut microbiome diversity. So farming practice may influence soil health, and soil health may influence plant health and human health. Last year, National Academies of Science and Engineering and Medicine published a really holistic review of exact this theme, exploring linkage between soil health and human health. It's a fascinating study. So you can download it for free from this website. So if you're interested in this aspect, yeah, please go take a look at it. Now, one of the best indicator of healthy soil is soil organic matter, the key to soil health, which include living organisms and different level of decomposing organisms. So some part are biologically active and other parts inactive. And has a multiple benefit. Biological benefits for soil organic matter include source of energy, reservoir of nutrient, soil plant system resilience, and chemically cation exchange, soil pH, and binding soil organic matter to soil minerals, and physically structure stability, water retention, and thermal properties. According to USDA study, every 1% of soil organic matter increase result in as much as 25,000 gallons of available water per acre. And in California, study shows that the average soil organic matter content in the farmland is about 2%. So you can use that number as a kind of baseline, and then how soil organic matter changes you can monitor by soil testing. So here's 6 soil health principles according to USDA and RCS. First one is keep the soil covered. Try not to expose and bare. Always cover with mulch or plant, which is important. And then minimize soil disturbance. Whenever possible, try to reduce tillage, which destroy habitats for microorganisms in the soil and stimulate the decomposition of soil organic matter. Yeah, you can try no-till, and many actually experienced organic farmers in California tried no-till, but it's not easy. So, reduce when you can, reduce till. And increase crop diversity. Crop rotation is so important to keep the soil microbes diverse because different plants attract different microbes around the roots. And also, that's temporal diversity and spatial diversity, not the monocultural huge acreage, but to plant different things in the same field. That's, either different multiple crops or intercropping. And keep living roots in the soil. Again, plants release carbon to feed the microbes. So living roots in the soil is important. Integrate livestock where possible, chicken, cows, sheep, whatever that stimulate, nutrient cycling and microbiome cycling. And judicious use of organic amendments. Compost is good. One caution, judicious use. Important thing is to monitor soil nutrient level, especially phosphorus. Some manure-based compost has more phosphorus than plants needs, and then, when you keep applying animal manure-based compost for many years, available phosphorus level becomes really high and started to become phosphorus started to become a water-soluble form, which may leach out to surface water and cause eutrophication, water pollution. So if you have really high available phosphorus in the soil, you might want to switch to plant-based compost or reduce the amount of compost.
Hey,
Now
Joji,
that's
this is
my
your 5-minute warning.
okay, great. I just have three more slides. Just introducing next speaker. Um, I decided to have this session with Scott Park, next speaker, because he's one of the best organic growers in California I know of, and then he's very successful. And he's going to talk about his operation in a minute. But he's successful, of course, economically, but ecologically very successful, and in a socially very aware person too. And one of the example of ecological successful story of his farm is this. His farm has less leaf hoppers. He grows processing tomatoes. He's going to talk about in a minute, but his processing tomato fields has less leaf hoppers, insect pests compared to surrounding conventional leaf hoppers. So, preventing, um, leaf hoppers by some reason. And the researcher in UC Davis, Emily Godin, and her group studies what's going on. And the finding was so fascinating and published in the Nature Plants. And what they found, the change in leaf hoppers settling between organically and conventionally grown tomatoes are dependent on the increased plant resistance by the salicylic acid accumulation in plants mediated by rhizosphere microbial communities. In other words, healthy soil built by Scott actually reduced the insect pests on plants. Who'd have thought about it, right? So we started just to start understand how healthy soil could affect plants, animal, and human health. And Scott's farm is one of the living laboratory for us, for the researchers. The direct reason I wanted to ask Scott to talk about this is he said something intriguing to me the other day. He said that during the transition period, I train soil microbes, and it takes about 3 years to complete the training. You know, He's the only person who said I train soil microbes to me. So it's very fascinating, and he's gonna explain how to train soil microbes during the transition period um, right after me. So let's please welcome Mr. Scott Park.
Thank you so much, Joji. As the slides for Scott are coming up, we'll get ready for him to talk, and I know he's going to get pinned right now as well. Um, Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott, for joining us, and thank you for that great presentation, Joji. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I am a microbe trainer. Sometimes I've been quite successful, other times a little buffaloed, but eventually the system adjusts and microbes learn what their diet is for their rest of their life and generations after. So yeah, I just want to start with a quote because this is some of the way that you'll see that I think. Basically everything Joji's saying, that's the scientific world, and I certainly agree with all of it. I'm not a scientist, I'm just a farmer, but I've been dealing with biomass and building up soil health since 1985, and through this experience, this is the John Muir's quote, which I actually paraphrased a little and I blew it, but it's the same thing I found. Respect the connection between everything. There's no do something, oh, that's okay, because that won't have any impact. No, it all has an impact. Everything you do has an impact on the natural system. Next slide. So today's talk will cover, it would be good for you to understand our farm and how we got there, just so you kind of appreciate what I've been through trying to put together this system. Then I'll explain the system with this corny cartoon I made up. A little feeling for the value of crop rotation and how we approach it. Like there's a level of crop rotation once you've been organic for a while, and there's a level of crop rotation that's you would do in transition, and roughly they are different because you either have trained microbes or you don't have trained microbes. And if you don't, you've got to spend time training. And then just to help people, since I kind of feel this is from what I understand, a transition group of sort of ways to get some equipment pretty cheap, and equipment that helps you in dealing with this world of biomass. Then I'll finish with some farm observations, just sort of sayings that permeate our farm, and I'll finish with a little pedaling. Next slide. So yeah, there's basically three of us, myself and my wife on the right. We are first generation. I started in 1974. Ulla came from Denmark in 1977, and we married in 1978. So she's been with this ride most of the time. My son, Brian, now is owner of the farm. Ulla and I are mostly on the sidelines consulting when needed. The farm's in Meridian, about 50 miles north of Sacramento. So just to give you a little feeling of what I've been through, when I started, I have a political science degree. I basically never took an ag class except for biology in college to get my Bachelor of Arts. And but since then, I've learned a bit about, particularly what goes on under the soil seems to have always caught my interest more so than what's going on above it. So anyway, when I started, I did a really job of cloning and watching all the other farmers because I had no clue as to what I was into. I think it's appropriate to tell a quick story. After 2 weeks of being a supposable farmer, my partner asked me to check the moisture on the tomato plants that just had emerged. And I dug a shovel in the ground, and by God, there were worms everywhere. I was in a state of panic. I called my pest control advisor and said, please get here so I can spray something. I don't know what's going to happen. And he shows up and he goes, well, Scott, do you ever fish? And I go, oh, yeah, I love fishing. In fact, these worms look like what I've used. And he's going, yes, those are earthworms. And let me tell you, as long as your fields are seeing earthworms, you're in good shape. And at the time, of course, I felt beyond stupid, but I still didn't put the connection. But I laugh at myself now looking back on those days and just how little of a clue I had. So through the 70s up to 85, I was just pounding and doing what other farmers do, that you just work the ground to death. You run power incorporators and you beat the soil up in order to put a herbicide on properly and create a seed bed. And I picked up a field that was close to mine that I'd been farming, all our grounds leasing. And anyway, working the ground, it worked up beautifully. It did not take a big effort to work the ground deep. And I thought about the way those farmers were farming. And they were farming different than the rest of the farmers in the area. They were very gentle. They used light equipment. They came on the ground late. They had a very simple rotation, but they had a rotation. They were grazing, and that had quite an impact because at that point I had been farming for 12 years, and all I was doing was spending more money getting lower yields, using more chemicals to make up for the constant pounding and beating up of the ground. So I started changing, and the next I started putting some wheat straw in the ground, which is, well, it's still rarely ever done by anyone. I was about the first to do it in Northern California, building up the soil. I just knew that what we had was not getting it done. And then in 1989, I had a really mind-blowing experience from spraying for worms, a category 1, and I'm walking the furrow the next day, and I'm hearing this crunching sound, and there's not supposed to be crunching sounds in a tomato furrow. And I looked down, and it was all full of dead dragonflies. And I walk a little farther, and there's a dead blackbird. And so, like, at this point, I'm going, do I want to be associated with this? Is this the direction? Is this what I want my kids, my family? Is this the way we're going to make our money? And so I started changing drastically. And it's been going on ever since. Of course, I didn't have much money. I had almost no money. So it's been a long haul to get at this point. Now we got our first field certified in 95. Now we have 30 fields spread over 12 miles. 28 of them are regenerative organic certified, and we have 2 fields in transition. So we continue to truck along. The first year, that 1974, I didn't mention, we were doing it with 270 acres. I've had a lot of experience on transitioning fields to organic, and they've all been coming out of old burnout chemical fields. Okay, so I have a good feeling of what you're in for if you are transitioning ground. So you can read that list. We pretty much grow everything that's not a tree, that's annual, and you can see by the diversity of it is hitting on what Joji's hitting on, that if you want to have a healthy system, period, not just on the microbes, but in the environment around you, and the change in the soil is to have different crops. It'll sound weird, and I've had people tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but we actually grow crops like wheat. We don't make money on wheat. We trade dollars, but the value of having that change in the pattern of when we plant is what makes the system work. Next slide, please. So this is a corny cartoon, like maybe I think my 7-year-old grandson helped me with it. But I had a lot of talks of groups from UC Davis and others coming and asking, well, why do you do what you do? And I should be able to say, oh, I have this master plan, and this is all well by design. But it wasn't at all. We flew by the seat of our pants forever, just because, like, we started this in the 90s, and organic was hardly a word at that time. But in the most simplest sense, just look at it in 3 ways. The inputs are down below, like the soil. And then you've got the plant with the leaves, petals coming off of it. And that's the results of your practices in the soil. And if you're getting those results and your soil is healthy, then ideally in the clouds, you're getting the goals of what you're doing as far as the results and the impact. The chain reaction goes through the system, and there's it's very important that it's all needed, okay, especially on what's on the input level. Like, you can't be just totally abusive in the conservation tillage and expect that you're going to get the mileage out of cover crops or a crop rotation or the crop residue. Each of them is needed, and each of them adds to the system. Some add more than others. I mean, it's safe to say cover crops, crop rotation, and thoughtful tillage. The conservation tillage should actually be targeted tillage, which I'll hit on afterwards. Just like critter cover should be border management, but they don't have C's. So I like to have 9 C's here. And I also recognize the yellow arrows going back and forth, that it's not just what's going on underneath the ground. Your plant is taking care of the soil as much as the soil is taking care of the plant. The feeding, as Joji mentioned, of the carbohydrates and what have you. So the whole idea is respecting the whole system and having it have a chance to be as natural as it can. And if you're doing this, then your end result are those clouds in the sky, which is a long story by itself. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is an example of our farm system now, where we have taken the soil, the microbe training to the max, where we're cycling and digesting ideally 365 days a year. This is the problem solving tool for the farm. Okay, we truly don't have hardly any insect disease or fertility problems. Speaking, we're really good at growing weeds, but for those three big players, letting the system run, continually feeding it, recognizing in one form or another, the main ones for us is crop residue and cover crops and compost, but the role of compost is taking less and less every year as the system runs more effectively. Okay, so without going super detailed, but also look at what do we have in here? We have color, right? We have life, we have diversity. We have, it doesn't show the grazing here, but it's also the grazing is figured in when it fits. We actually can't get enough sheep to make our systems work. And some of you are looking at this, and I know your farms are small and you're going, yeah, how do we do this? But everything I'm saying is relative. If the principle fits, period. If you're doing a half an acre, 5 acres, 10 acres, 1,000 acres, okay, you want the diversity, you want the color, you want the change, you want to be planting at different times. This staggering is what builds up the biodiversity in the soil that does your problem solving. If you don't have diversity, you've got to come in from external input and correct it. If you have the system in balance, nature seeks balance. These things I'm saying, I didn't know, I didn't read, but I've seen it and felt it now over time. So like you plant a corn and maybe you interplant it, and then you're planting a multi-species crop that you can take off in the spring and graze, the second one down, and then that'll give you your rice crop. Okay, you take the rice crop off, and that rice crop can be grown without any fertilizer, and it will yield as well as conventional because of everything that's going on before it. Not that there's any wizardry when I'm planting the rice, but the soil is ready to roll. You take the rice off, you don't fight it. I'll show you a picture because rice ground is really hard to work. So you just plant a cover crop, drill right into it, and then we'll harvest that cover crop. And some of this is recognizing the way rice, right, is really hard to work around. So don't fight it. And don't try and go a high nitrogen corn crop after it, because the corn crop won't grow well because the rice has used up all the nitrogen. Instead, you put something in the ground that is supplying that nitrogen. You go ahead and harvest it for seed or to sale, and then you turn around and you can plant. This is in the summer. You could plant another multi-species cover crop. This happens to be sun hemp, which is a super cover crop rotation in the summer. Then you come into the winter. Now I want to set the table for tomatoes to follow. You plant a veg crop. It breaks down really easy. You can get in and harvest a tomato crop. So in here, in this picture, right, there's actually 4 crops harvested: corn, rice, veg, tomatoes, right? Over this 3-year span, all the time, you are building and making the soil healthier. Next slide, please. However, you need to plan ahead. Now you're starting, I'm starting on your side, and I've screwed up many times. And this is one of my favorite examples. Is a seed buyer came to us and they said, can you grow elephant sunflower? I say, I can grow anything, in 1 year, just let me know, pay me enough, and I'm going to do it. And so we planted the elephant sunflower, and it was a really, really good crop, and it solved the problem we had of shading out Johnson grass and morning glory. The gentleman standing there is almost 6 feet tall. So the elephant sunflower is like 15 feet tall. Man, am I a good farmer. Boy, did we do a really nice job. However, we never thought, how do we get that in a harvester? And as it is, we only harvested 30% of the crop. because we couldn't fit the length and the size of those sunflower heads into a harvester. So it's a good lesson. Plan ahead. Don't just go and say you can do anything. Next slide, please. So yeah, I know probably none of you have this on your farm. I don't either, but I take a picture of it. It's a neighbor friend, but this rig, it probably is close to $1 million by itself. But the point that I want to make on this, and this is a big, big deal for the transition into organic, is set the plate before you serve the meal. Take care of all your problems. If you have to spray a chemical, spray a chemical. If you have Johnson grass, if your ground is tight, get in, work it up, loosen it up. You don't want to have to do now your farming later on, correcting something that you can do beforehand. Okay. If you take soil analysis, add what it's needed. If you're adding gypsum or lime, now is the time to do it. Okay, this is getting it ready so that once you start, like you'll hear me support controlled traffic. You always drive in the same spot every time. Your ground can stay loose and mellow forever with minimal tillage. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to start into the world of biomass, because this is your soil health. Okay. Compost is great, but compost is also really expensive. We put on compost, but you have growing crops and growing cover crops. You can be building that as your nutrient source, plus your ability, all the things that are right about healthy soil can be accomplished, a lot of it by handling biomass, residue, cover crops correctly. So these are some rules that if you get into, which I think every one of you farming should be conscious of using biomass to improve your soil. But there's a way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And I've done it the wrong way more than once, okay? And it's not good. So give this some respect. When you chop the biomass, chop it fine, okay? And the reason is, the longer piece of biomass that you have in your soil, the slower it breaks down. Biomass only breaks down from the edges. So if you have a foot-long piece, it's going to break down a lot slower than a 3-inch piece, okay? But if you are going to leave biomass on top to serve as a mulch, the longer you leave it, the better, with the same principle, because it will break down slower. The faster it breaks down, the sooner that sun is hitting the soil and you're having your weed problems, and you lose the advantage of it being a thatch. Okay, so now you've chopped it fine. It needs nitrogen to break down quickly and I'd say evenly or uniformly. So like for what we do is we'll chop even vetch or oats or whatever we have, and then we put compost right on top of it. That's the next thing to do. And it's just cutting out extra passes, because we're putting it all together as a symbiotic relationship. So it helps the breaking down of the biomass. Then you want to incorporate it. If you have a huge amount of biomass, you want to incorporate it deeper. Give it the better chance that it's going to break down, have more soil, right, to biomass connection. You need 3 things. You need the biomass, but you need the soil, and you need, more than that, the nitrogen, and then water. If you don't have water, it's just going to sit there. We've had problems on droughts that we put a bunch of wheat straw under, just thinking we were going to get rains in the winter to break it down, and it didn't break down. Okay, water is needed. So that's why be sure there's adequate water, or irrigate if you need to. And the speed of composition is temperature related. If you put a bunch of biomass in the ground in February, it's still going to be hanging, especially if it's a cereal. It's going to be hanging around into March and a little bit into April. The warmer it is, the faster it breaks down. And the finishing, it's very important that you give time, okay, for this breakdown of biomass to be almost finished, okay? Because for whatever reason, the microbes, I've tried to train them, but one thing they will do consistently is they will take nitrogen to help break down the carbon that's been added, that form of biomass, they will use it to break down the carbon instead of taking care of the plant. I don't know why. I'm guessing just because they're trying to bring the soil into equilibrium, but your plants suffer if you put a bunch of biomass and then you come in and you plant right away. And the other problem is if you put a bunch of biomass and you plant right away, insects in the ground are going nuts because, oh, what a food source, bingo, right away. And they won't, they're not discriminate. They won't go, oh, wait a second, that's a corn seed. We're not going to eat that. No, they will eat that also. So when you put this flush of biomass residue in the ground, give a week. If it's a real warm, 2 weeks and 3 weeks is okay. It is better. The longer you give it, the whole system to break down, reach an equilibrium, then the nitrogen's available, your plant will grow well. Thank you. On that one, next slide, please. Okay, so this is, I'm going to have to pick it up a little bit, talking too much. So this is a transition approach. You have dead microbes. Your microbe life is, there's always microbes in the soil. Okay, there always is. But do you have a huge flush of density and population and diversity, or do you just have some that are trained to live on ammonium sulfate? Okay, so here's what you do is you plant a cereal. You start feeding the system. When you take the cereal off, the next one goes to the right of the no-till drilling. Don't spend a bunch of money working this. What you want to do is just get something drilled, a cover crop in the ground. You pre-irrigate, then go down to the bottom left. On the bottom left, now later you would graze it. That possibly could eat and do your fall tillage, but it almost never works. The stuff grows back and you still need to chop it. And that's some sun hemp growing inside. The sun hemp's a really neat cover crop because look how big it is. It'll grow 7 feet tall in 60 days. It's a legume and it doesn't set seed. Okay, so that's why I say and it grows summer. We planted it in the 1st of August, and by the middle of September, it's huge. So it's a good filler if you need it. And then after you take that off, again, look, we're building biomass, right? We've got the wheat straw, we're putting it under, we got a cover crop. And then in October and November, you have a window, you just work the summer cover crop and you plant a winter cover crop of vetch, building soil, feeding the microbes. Next, please. So now this is into your second year. What are you going to grow? And the first year you probably lost money, but that's okay. You didn't spend that much, but you build up the soil. The second year you have to approach it the same way. You're not getting the organic premium. So do stuff that's good for the soil, like a sunflower crop. You're not going to make any money on sunflower crop, but boy, is it really good for all the beneficials in the area. One, it shades weeds. You'll get some money off of it. It's completely different than anything that's been done on the ground. And then you do the same thing after you took it off. You go ahead and then you plant, let's see, which way am I? Yeah, then you plant your cereal legume in a winter a mix of forbs, legumes, and cereals, building up the soil. And then after that, next spring comes, you go through and you chop it all. You work it into the ground. You pre-irrigate. Now just think of the sequence of these 7 pictures. What are you doing? You're making this ground alive and you're not dealing with a lot of risk and you're not putting out a lot of money. So after this bottom left one, you'd work the ground. This might be done in April. You come around, you've gone past now the 3rd year, and this would be hitting the first day of the 4th year, which would mean now you qualify to have a premium for organic, and you'd be planting a squash like in late June or something that would be harvested in September, and you're getting a premium price with really good soil. You've got a cycling system, the microbes are trained, and now you have a gold mine. You bit the bullet for a couple of years, you got beat up, but look at how you're positioned now. Next slide.
Scott, you have about 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Scott, sorry, can you unmute yourself? I accidentally muted you. There you
Well,
go.
I thought the whole crowd did, just letting me know. Okay, anyway, so yeah, borders are really important, okay? Don't neuter your borders if you can help it. We use owl boxes and Predator, but mostly the purpose of this picture, again, is life. It's not bare dirt. Next picture, please. So the same, if we don't have stuff growing natural like that, we plant. We have a couple miles of hedgerows on our farm planted, and we'll plant native grasses. Needless to say, we didn't plant that 150-year-old oak, but we'll just go plant in between it, trying to let the system go and work as it should. Almost all farmers won't let oaks grow on the edge of their field. As you can see, it reaches out into the field. It can have allelopathic effects. But this is where I'm the whole picture thing. What about all the other advantages of life, of animals and stuff that are taking advantage of that oak tree, that are keeping the system in balance, that birds and squirrels and bugs, they're all there, okay? And they can be bad if you don't have things in balance, but they can be wonderful if you do. Next slide. So yeah, this is just showing grazing in a 4 legume, that's radish there, that the sheep are having a field day. This is a point of some of, just because you graze doesn't mean, the sheep are very selective. They'll eat off the tops off of a cereal, but they'll leave the rest of it. Well, that's not going to work when we go to prep the ground. So you still got to go chop it. Next slide, please. So yeah, this just giving the picture of chopping and adjusting. Like, I'd love to give you a perfect formula on how to farm in a template, and here's the equipment, and do this and do that. And you're doing, no way. Every field of the 30 fields we have, every field has its own personality. You got to find what fits you and what works and what equipment works. For example, we had to design, and we made, this is the only one in California that's like this. It was designed by the machine shop Meridian, Meridian in California, that made this idea. And this is, take note of this. The problem with all this biomass is if you run on it before you chop it in the back, you press down a bunch of stringy biomass that now tangles up your other operations. So we made it to run in front of the tractor, a chopper that only runs down in the furrow to get all that biomass chopped fine, so we don't find it cultivating with. Next slide, please. So this is just, even if you're on a 1 acre scale, it's the same concept. You'd have a coulter cutting biomass and a planter behind, okay? And you don't fight something. If this crop's not going to be planted for 6 months or something, why do all the tillage? Just cut through it in front of where the planter shoe goes and get something in the ground growing. Next slide. This is what it looks like from behind. We just drilled straight into rice. We chopped it. We just plant the rice. This is what it looks like on the right 2 months later. Yeah, initially, when I started doing this, I was sweating bullets. We blew it. What an idiot. But as it is, it turns out to be a completely full perfect. It just takes a long time. All that straw in the winter slows down growth. Next slide, please. So that this is making that connection. If you're either not going to put it in the ground or you're going to put it in the ground. Don't kind of do it. You need to mix soil with the biomass. Next slide, please. So this is getting into tillage, where if you can have someone on a small farm, maybe you have 2 acres, and there's a neighbor nearby that has a sub 1 inch GPS, have them pull your beds and keep them forever. Then all your weight and your compaction is just in two spots that you can go through and loosen up. Next slide, please. So this is the idea. This is what we use. This does our main ripping on 1,800 acres because we do controlled traffic. That ripper costs about $200 at an auction. Next slide, please. That also, I should say, that ripper also only takes about 60 horsepower. This is just, so we're running short on time, but think about your tillage and how you do it. One quick suggestion is, you see there's a little pipe on the back of that. We weld that on. When you're running a knife in the spring, you want the the blade lifts, but you want that pipe to give the extra lift. There's moisture in the soil, and you'll till, and you think you killed the weeds, and in the next week they're right back, because any root hanging there with moisture is going to take off again. Next slide, please. So that's why we run this Alliliston. Probably most of you know what it is. This is the knife we talk about. We go cut, and then we run the Alliliston, and this is rolling down and making the beds before we plant. This is killing all the little weeds. But just remember, you got to have moving parts or cutting. If you're dealing with some biomass, you don't want something only rigid all the time. Next slide, please. So this is the best tool you can get. If you're cultivating, you're growing whatever crop, a row crop, something on a bed, these are called finger weeders. Okay, these do the same thing you can do if you pay $1 million for a laser cultivator. Okay, these cost about $1,500 each gang by themselves, but you can run 5 to 6 miles an hour right over the row and clean the row of weeds, as long as the weeds are small, as long as you can just about flick them out. The finger weeder will take out those weeds really well. Once it gets any size and rooted, it won't, because it also doesn't take out the rows. Like on this corn rows, the planter's just sitting. Sorry, it's off a little to the right, doesn't look quite right. But it runs in the middle, and the fingers cross and go right through the plant. Okay, and so like when we first started, God, plants are going to look like hell the next day. The plants love it. It's like they get a blast of oxygen or whatever. It is a positive to run this through the plants while you're taking out weeds, and you can be running at 5 miles an hour or more. Next slide, please. This is just, I'm just thinking of ways you save money. Like you go to an auction and buy this Clamco, okay, for $200 or $300 now. And what you can do is you can go in, you're growing a crop, you want an intercrop, you just put the seed in those pots, and the shanks come down and they lay it in right next. This is done for us on the corn after we've done our last cultivation. We have some clover or black eyes or something planted that we want interplanted. Extremely cheap, fast, simple. Start irrigating. Like this corn, we've never irrigated up to this point. We'll turn in the water after we do this operation. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the end of it. But these are, think of this, okay? Chemicals aren't the best. Natural systems, we are finding in our farm, like Joji talked about with the beet leaf hoppers. Natural systems are the best, most cost-efficient problem solvers. It takes time. You have to have a long-range view. You can't approach thoughtful farming seeking instant gratification. Okay, and this next one, solve problems before they happen. Watch okay, something's wrong in your field. Okay, that is the symptom. Yes, you want to go do something about the symptom, but take it one step farther back. Why did it show up? And that's where you go for the jugular. That's the one that you solve. And then once you solve that, problems start happening. And I know this because when we approached and shifted from organic from conventional, I had a conventional mindset on how problems are solved. Something goes wrong, grab a 5-gallon can, happens to be organic instead of conventional product, glorified water, no punch, didn't get it done. I was in trouble. So that's what we just had to figure out. Well, let's not have this show up because we can't do anything about it when it comes. That's what I mean by solving problems before they happen. Farm excuse free. There's too many variables, okay? It's always easy to cop out and blame something. Face the music, look at it honestly, move on. Net profit more important than yield. If you're always thinking yield, you're always going to go heavy on inputs. And if you can make just as much money or more with seeing like, what is my bottom line, not how high yield it is. Give value to long-term impact. That goes back to the initial slide. Be a constant observer and have trials. Whatever you're doing, whatever different products, have an area where you don't make the change. That's a control, because this goes back to farming excuse free. You need to see proof that what happened is the reason it happened. Again, because there's so many variables. Okay. And then most problems farmers have, they created. Yeah, it's a good way for me to get lynched at a meeting, but it's true just because I've watched what we do. and so many problems we created. There's the last one that's not fitting on the scale or on the slide here. See if I can remember it. The more you improve your soil health, the less soil health problems you have. And really, more problems are solved, period, for the ranch. The more you build the soil, the less problems you have. So that's next slide, please. So this is my shameless marketing. I have a book coming out September 29th. It's covering some of what I touched on today and a lot of other aspects of farming and the highs and lows. And hopefully, if you read it, you'll find it educational, entertaining, and inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott, for that really great presentation. We're going to take time for one short question before we close the webinar and then transition to office hours. Joji, we'll have you join this as well. The question is, we talked a lot about row crops in your example, Scott. And the question is, does the information today apply to perennial farming systems like avocado tree farms or wine grape soils? And do you have any insights on how to build soil health in transitioning soils where perennial crops are growing?
Yeah, I can try, but I have no experience in perennial cropping systems, so I have to yield to other specialists. But what I can say is, other researchers and some orchard managers are trying different cover crops in between the tree crops, also planting different variety of crop itself, and also having sheep on the farm under the trees or something. So there's a way to do it. And then I hope next couple of speakers, Margaret Lloyd and Sarah Light, might have more experience for that, and then they might mention about those systems. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Just what you said. The principle is still the same. That you want to seek the diversity. You want to have as much of all kinds of insects and all kinds of life under the ground, of the microbial diversity and above the ground. The two go hand in hand. And so you just match it up to when are the right windows to do it, and having the right equipment. And some of it is conviction on your part, and watching and following it through and giving thought to what you're doing. There's no question that the trees themselves would like it. If you were growing something that was growing as tall and shading the perennial, no, I don't think that would be a good idea. But as far as growing it, chopping it, you might have to change your irrigation systems. I know there's a lot of micro sprinklers, so it's not as wide, so you're not getting the cover crop wet. So maybe you need to widen it, and you chop it in the spring. Maybe you're planting another cover crop, and of course try it. If you've got a 30-acre block, try it on 2 acres or something, or one. So and then you can trust it, and then you can go after full blast.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott and Joji. We have more questions. We'll address them during the office hours. But before we do that, we just want to thank you both so much for your time. If you'd like to learn more about the speakers, you can look them up on the internet. We'll share the links to their websites as well. Next week, we'll continue to speak about soil health. And specifically, we'll be talking about or hearing about soil amendments, things like compost and other kinds of organic fertilizers and nutrient building amendments. And then right now, we'll transition to office hours, which will run until 2 p.m. So this concludes the formal part of our webinar today.